Okay, in this video, we're going to take a look at how to declare and initialize an array in C#. So let's say we would like to create an array of integers. So we start with int. We use the square brackets to indicate that we would like to create an array, not just an integer. We give it an identifier or a name. And now we need to allocate memory to it. So we use the new operator. And we repeat int array again. But this time we need to specify the size of the array. So let's say 3. Now we can make this code a bit shorter by getting rid of this int array here and just using var. The compiler knows that numbers is assigned to an integer array, as you see here. So there's no need to repeat that twice. Now I'm going to set the first element of this array. And because in C# arrays are 0 indexed, the first element starts with index of 0. So numbers of 0 equals 1. Now let me show you something. I'm going to display all the elements in this array on the console. So console the right line, numbers of 0. And I'm going to duplicate this line a couple of times with Control D, which is one of ReSharper's shortcuts. And I change the index on each line. So this is a very basic way of displaying elements in an array. A more efficient way is to use a loop, and that's something we're going to look at in the next section. Now let's run this application and see what happens. So our array has 3 elements, and the first one is initialized to 1. But what about the others? Note that they're initialized to 0 by default. So that means when you declare an array, all the elements are set to the default value of the data type for that array. In this case, because our array is of type integer, the default value for integers or any kind of numbers in C# is 0. If we had an array of booleans, all elements in that array would be initialized to false. Let's try that. So I'm going to create another array. Let's call it flags. And this time I'm going to use a bool array. Again, the same size. Again, similarly, I set the first element. So flags of 0 equals true. And now I display all elements in this array. Let's run the application. So note that the first element of the Boolean array is set to true, but the second and third elements are false. Now, one more example before we finish this lecture. This time, I'm going to create an array of strings, and I'm going to use the object initialization syntax to initialize it during declaration. So, I'm going to call it names, new string array of size 3, and I'm going to store 3 names here. So, Jack, John, and Mary. So with the object initialization syntax, you start with curly braces and you supply values for each element of the array. That's pretty much it for this lecture. Later in this course, we're going to have a full section on arrays, and there I'm going to cover arrays in more detail. I hope you enjoyed this lecture, and thank you for watching.